This has to be one of the most bizarre things I've ever heard. You are going to want to watch this whole video. In the summer of 1518, a strange phenomenon occurred in the city of Strasbourg, France. A woman known as Frau Troffet began dancing in the streets for no apparent reason. What started as one person soon turned into dozens, then hundreds, and eventually thousands of people began dancing uncontrollably, as if in a trance. This became known as the Dancing Plague of 1518. The sight of people dancing uncontrollably might sound comical, but the reality was far from funny. Many of the dancers suffered from exhaustion, heart attack, or stroke. Others died from their injuries or from dehydration, and it's estimated that anywhere from 50 to 400 people lost their lives during the outbreak. The events of the Dancing Plague have fascinated and perplexed people for centuries, leading to many theories about what caused it. One theory is that the dancers were suffering from mass hysteria, which is a phenomenon where a group of people can become delusional or develop physical symptoms as a result of stress or anxiety. This could have been caused by a variety of factors, such as poor living conditions, malnutrition, or even a local outbreak of disease. Another theory is that the Dancing Plague was a form of religious fervour, where people danced as an act of devotion to a saint or god. This theory is supported by the fact that many of the dancers reported seeing visions of religious figures while they were in their trance-like state. A third theory is that the dancers were simply caught up in the moment and unable to stop. The medieval era was a time of great upheaval and social unrest, and it's possible that the dancers were simply looking for an escape from their day-to-day life. Other theories suggest that it was a form of mass hysteria sparked by psychological and social pressures in a time of economic hardship and religious fervour. Others have pointed to possible chemical or biological factors, such as ergot poisoning from contaminated rye or an outbreak of encephalitis. Still others have suggested that it was a bizarre form of religious or political protest, a ritualistic trance induced by music and dance, or even a collective act of defiance against social norms. The town council, uncertain of what to do, eventually turned to local physicians and healers for help. Various remedies were suggested, including the prescription of more dancing to cure the afflicted, and some of the dancers were even taken on pilgrimages to shrines in hopes of a divine cure. However, no remedy seemed to work, and many of the dancers ultimately collapsed from exhaustion, heart attacks, or strokes. Some sources estimate that as many as 15 people per day were dying at the height of the outbreak. Regardless of the cause, the Dancing Plague of 1518 lasted for several months before finally subsiding. By the end, hundreds of people had been affected, and the impact of the event was felt throughout the region. Despite the lack of definitive answers, the Dancing Plague of 1518 has left an enduring impact on popular culture and historical imagination. It has been the subject of numerous artistic and literary works, and has been cited as a cautionary tale of the power of group psychology and the dangers of social and economic instability. While the true cause of the outbreak may never be known, the legacy of the Dancing Plague continues to intrigue and captivate people around the world centuries after the events unfolded. Although the Dancing Plague of 1518 is perhaps the most well-known example of this phenomenon, it was not the first or last time that people have danced themselves into a frenzy. Similar outbreaks occurred throughout Europe in the centuries that followed, as well as in other parts of the world. Another example of a similar outbreak occurred in the small village of Altenburg in Germany in 1703. Reports from that time suggest that several individuals were seized by an irresistible urge to dance and did so for several weeks, eventually collapsing from exhaustion. In 1937, a dancing epidemic broke out in Madagascar, known as the Tarantism of the East. The episode was described as an uncontrolled frenzy of hallucinatory dancing and singing, and lasted for a month. Another example of a similar outbreak is the so-called laughing epidemic that occurred in Tanganyika, now Tanzania. In 1962, over 1,000 people were affected by uncontrollable laughter and fits of crying, which persisted for several months. Similarly to the dancing plague, the laughing epidemic is thought to have been caused by a combination of social stressors and underlying psychological factors. Other examples include the meowing nuns of Loudun in 17th century France and the mad gasser of Mattoon in the United States during the 1940s. While the exact causes of these outbreaks are still a matter of debate, they provide further evidence of the powerful influence that social and psychological factors can have on human behavior. In recent years, there have been some reports of isolated cases of dancing mania in different parts of the world, but none of them have reached the same scale as the events in Strasbourg and other locations in Europe in the Middle Ages. To this day, the cause of the dancing plague of 1518 and other events like it remain a mystery. What do you think? What is the most realistic cause to these events? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the Wiki channel and hit that little bell too.